Night vision or scotopic vision can be impaired by a lack of oxygen. The eye consumes for its size the most oxygen of any organ, because of the high level of nervous activity taking place. Any reduction in the supply of oxygen, such as with increasing altitude, reduces the eye's effectiveness. The partial pressure of oxygen reduces with altitude, and its effect on sight has been measured. Night vision deteriorates by about 5% at 3,500 feet, by about 18% at 9,000 feet, by 35% at 13,000 feet, and by 50% at 16,000 feet. It is generally considered that a cabin pressure of 8,000 feet is the limit for effective night vision. Other factors which affect night vision can be seen by clicking the notebook on the screen. Day vision is not really affected by altitude until about 10,000 feet, and this is known as the indifferent zone. However, a regular smoker's vision starts to degrade at about 5,000 feet, and so a smoker's night vision will be worse than that of a non-smoker. It is a requirement of JAR flight crew licensing that a commercial pilot has two eyes, so that he can have depth perception. Use your pause button and read the text of this document if you wish to know more. Because one's eyes are about 2 inches apart, the images falling on the retina of each eye are slightly different, and the brain is able to compute distance and depth of field when objects are within 200 feet. Beyond this distance, monocular vision is as good as binocular vision as far as depth perception is concerned. In addition to stereopsis, other cues allow relative distance and depth to be judged, such as relative size, overlapping, linear perspective, relative colour or contrast, light and shade. Tiredness may produce double vision, as the muscles of the two eyes are not working in harmony. The movement of the eyeballs, which is essential to achieving depth perception, is achieved by 6 muscles, positioned as opposing pairs which pull one way, then are pulled back the other way to a neutral position. In the absence of anything to focus on, the lens assumes its relaxed oval shape, and the eyeball muscles relax to a neutral position. This leads to a focus point about 1 to 1.5 meters in front of the eye, called empty visual field myopia. Empty visual field myopia can be very significant when searching for distant targets, when visual cues are weak, as the eye will not be adjusted to detect them. The condition is aggravated when there are other objects close to the empty field range, such as raindrops on the windscreen. Empty visual field myopia can occur in cloudless skies at high altitude, in total darkness, under a uniformly overcast sky, or when resting the eyes. Flight crew should therefore periodically focus on visible objects, such as a wingtip, then the instruments, in order to vary the focal point. Before we consider the defects in one's eyesight, let us look at the harm that can be done to eyesight by high levels of ultraviolet and blue light, both of which are at the shortwave end of the spectrum, but UV light is not visible. Another way of measuring light, other than by its wavelength, is by its frequency, measured in hertz or cycles per second. That is, how many cycles or waves of light there are per second. The shorter the wavelength, the greater the frequency. Put another way, frequency v is the speed of light c divided by wavelength lambda. The frequency of light is relevant to the damage to the body, because the greater the frequency, the greater the power or photons of the light. That is why X-rays, which have an even smaller wavelength than ultraviolet light, and so a greater frequency, can penetrate solid matter. As regards eyes, blue light can damage the retina by inhibiting the formation of a chemical called cytochrome oxidase. This chemical is an important part of retinal cells because it transports oxygen to the rods and cones. Without oxygen, those cells will die. Ultraviolet light, on the other hand, can damage the lens and cause cataracts over a long period of time. The UV portion of the spectrum is divided into UVA, UVB, and UVC depending upon its wavelength, and so its frequency. UVA does not harm the body, and most UVC is absorbed by the ozone layer. However, UVB is only partially absorbed by the ozone layer and can damage biological organisms. The greater the intensity or irradiance of the light, the greater the damage potential. Factors which determine the irradiance of solar radiation are latitude, the time of day and time of year, cloud cover, pollution, ozone and altitude. Therefore, a pilot flying above the clouds, near the equator at midday in the summer, may encounter very high levels of UV light and blue light. To counter these harmful effects, there are obvious precautions that can be taken, such as wearing a peaked cap and sunglasses, which should be wraparound to avoid reflected light. Sunglasses with yellow polycarbonate lens offer good protection against both blue and UV light. Polaroid glasses, which prevent glare, work by blocking out the horizontal component of light. The lenses are coated with long molecule polymers in the horizontal axis, which absorb parallel light waves but let through perpendicular waves. The image on the left is unpolarized, and the horizontal component of the light has not been blocked. The image on the right shows that the lens has blocked out the horizontal component of the light, thereby removing the glare. Polaroid glasses should be avoided, as there may be a cumulative polarizing effect of windows, visors and sunglasses, which may be polarized in different directions, thereby causing a blind spot. They can also reduce contrast. Photochromatic, or variable tint glasses, may provide a higher UV protection, but their response time in luminance variation may give inadequate visual acuity at a critical time, such as on landing, when the pilot may be focusing alternately on shaded and sunny images. Click and drag the glasses with the mouse to show how they might be useful to see objects in bright sunlight, but unhelpful inside the cockpit. We are not concerned in this syllabus with diseases of the eye, but only with certain defects, namely long and short-sightedness, presbyopia, astigmatism, cataracts and glaucoma. The many requirements for a Class 1 medical, including vision, are listed in JAR FCL 3, but we need not consider them in detail. By way of illustration, here is an extract relating to colour vision. In a normal eye, both distant and near objects can be focused on the fovea, although not at the same time. Here, the eye is focused on the red balloon, while the white balloon is not in focus. Long-sightedness, also known as hypermetropia, occurs when the eyeball is shorter than normal along the visual axis, and as a result, it focuses parallel rays of light behind the fovea, and it is therefore out of focus unless the cornea and the lens have combined to correct the defect. Close objects will appear blurred with long-sightedness, unless corrective glasses are worn. A convex lens will overcome this refractive error by bending the light inwards before it meets the cornea, thereby ensuring that the image is focused on the fovea. A similar blurring of close objects occurs as one reaches the age of 40 to 50, because the lens, having lost its elasticity, is unable to change its shape, and therefore its focal length or accommodation. This is called presbyopia. The effects start with a difficulty in reading small print in poor light. Use the mouse to switch the light on and off. However, the condition is easily corrected with a weak convex lens, as in long-sightedness. Short-sightedness, or myopia, occurs when the eyeball is longer than normal, so that the image is focused short of the fovea. If accommodation by the cornea and the lens cannot overcome this, then distant objects will appear blurred, but close objects may be in focus. A concave lens will correct the defect by bending light outwards before it reaches the cornea, thereby ensuring that the image is focused on the fovea.